Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 61 of Preston Jensen's podcast. I'm your host, Preston. Hopefully, you guys are staying cool in these warm summer days. I don't know where you guys are listening to this podcast from, but here in North Dakota, it has been scorching hot, and we haven't had hardly any precipitation. So Ryan Knorr would be very disappointed in my yard right now. I've been trying to do as much watering as I can, but it doesn't seem like I'm keeping up with the drought. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the life of a podcaster. Today is one of those days or one of those weeks for me where I didn't have any guests planned, and I want to give you guys a little analogy in my thought process behind what happens on days like today. I was thinking back to when I was in school, and maybe some of you guys can relate to this, but where you get to school on a Monday morning and the teacher says, hey, you guys have a test coming up on Friday, and obviously nobody really likes to hear you've got a test coming up because you've got to put in some preparation, you've got to study, you've got to get everything right in your mind so you're ready to take that test. And when Friday comes around, you've got knots in your stomach, you're kind of worried about how the test is going to go. How are you going to stack up to your friends when taking the test? Is it going to pass? Are you going to get an A? Are you going to forget everything when you get to the test? But when you're done taking the test and you have confidence in yourself that you're prepared for the test seems easy. And when it's complete, you have a huge weight lifted off your shoulders and you feel good about it. Hopefully your preparation pays off. And when you get your test back, you get a great score. Everything goes all right. That's scenario number one. Now, scenario number two, and it's kind of the scenario I'm in today. Scenario one is usually what happens on my podcast, where I sit down, I do a lot of hard work before trying to research different things to talk about, schedule a guest, have a whole lineup of questions waiting for them. But scenario number two is you get to school on a Monday and your teacher says, all right, remember this afternoon you've got a test, and you think, oh, no, I remember her talking about a test last week, but I totally brushed it off. I didn't think about it all weekend. Now Monday is here. I haven't done any studying. I might have a study hall or a couple minutes at lunch to prepare something or try and get some stuff in order in your mind about whatever subject you're taking the test on. And then you get to the test, you're terribly nervous, and hopefully you cross your fingers and the test goes all right. But today is one of those days for me where I've been thinking about the podcast all week. Today is podcast day. I've got to record it a day early because I've got other obligations tomorrow night on Tuesday, which is usually my scheduled podcast day. And then to kind of pile up on the situation, next week I'm going to be gone, so I'm going to have to get 2 podcasts recorded this week, and I don't have any guests scheduled, so that adds a little bit to the pressure, but hopefully when I'm done recording this podcast, I'm going to think, a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Even though I crammed before this test, it turned out well. You guys will have to be the judge of that. But here's what I threw together. I want to talk a little bit about affiliate links and what your guys' thoughts are on affiliate links. I know many of the YouTubers and podcasters that I listen to struggle with the fact that they don't know if they want to put affiliate links into their production because they feel like it might water it down in some form. To me, I love when people have affiliate links just for the fact that if someone's talking about a product, I'm able to just go down into the comment section or into the description and click on that link. It'll bring me right to the page of the exact product they're talking about. because sometimes when you are doing some research and you're listening to someone talk about a product on a video or a podcast, it's like you pull it up on Amazon and it might not be the same. You're not exactly sure. One of the things that is tough for me to look up is like computer monitors. They've got crazy naming schemes, and it seems like it's just a bunch of letters and numbers, and it's nice to have the exact model that people are talking about come up. So I feel like it's something that every YouTuber or podcaster should look into. Now, you guys are going to say, hey, Preston, if you love them so much, how come you haven't put them into your podcast or your videos on YouTube? And to be honest, I just didn't know if my channel would have enough flow to be able to support the affiliate links. In the past, I've heard that you have to have a certain threshold of 1,000 subscribers or something to keep the flow going, so it's actually worth it to have affiliate links on your programs. And recently I saw a video where it said that, it was a channel about my size, maybe a little bit bigger, but they started putting affiliate links on their page, and things seem to start working out where they're getting a little bit of an income. I know it's not much, but anything is better than nothing. So in the future, I'm thinking about putting affiliate links on my page. Let me know if you guys are not for affiliate links on your favorite content creators' content, and maybe I'll rethink this. But the old infomercial thing got my brain spinning about when I was little. I absolutely loved infomercials. Probably a weird thing for little kids to like, but I always liked when they would talk about a product's best features. I always like watching product reviews on YouTube. I loved infomercials as a kid. And one of my favorite infomercials was for a magic worm. Now, for many of you, I'm assuming you've probably seen this infomercial in the past. You might have to look it up again on YouTube, but if you just type in magic worm infomercial, it'll come up. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's just this little worm, little furry worm that's maybe 3 to 4 inches long. And I thought it was so cool. The guy on the infomercial has like a CD, and he whistles or something, and the worm jumps through the hole in the CD, and he's got a cup, and it's swirling around the cup, and it hops on his shoulder. And I think, man, this is the coolest thing ever. And I think back, and my parents told me, that's not worth it. It's probably not what you're expecting. And I kept thinking, no, this just looks so good. I mean, how could it not work? And so I remember saving up and saving up and saving up for this magic worm. And finally I got enough money, and I remember how excited I was going to the store, buying the magic worm. And I thought, when I get home, I'm going to start playing with this thing. All my friends are going to think it's super cool. And I remember getting home, opening it up, and thinking, you have got to be kidding me. Basically, all it was a little bit fancier pipe cleaner with fishing line tied on the front. And somehow you were supposed to get good enough with that so people couldn't see the fishing line. And me being little, I fell for all the tricks of the infomercial. And that's still, to this day, probably my worst purchase of all time. And since that time, it seems like I'm very skeptical of any products that I buy based on infomercials or based on reviews. So I really appreciate the channels who do good product reviews, but they also tell you the negative sides of things. And I want that to reflect in my channel. I only want to promote stuff that's quality. I don't want to just promote stuff to get sales. And that's something that I think all YouTubers should do on their channels, obviously, because I feel like if you talk about one product and someone gets it and it's not as described as you were promoting it on your channel, I feel like you'll probably lose them forever. But if you are honest in all your reviews and you only talk about quality products that you like, or if you have a product that you don't necessarily like, you're willing to point out the downfalls of the product, I feel like you'll have a customer forever. And I know that's not a new concept. That's proven throughout time that honesty is always the best way to go. And really, thinking back, that even though it was probably the dumbest purchase of my life, that I bought a pipe cleaner with a piece of fishing string tied to it, and I think it was around $10 to $15 at the time. I don't know what they're going for today, but any amount is too much for that. It could, even though I think it might have been the dumbest purchase of my life, it could have been the greatest purchase of my life because of the lesson I learned from that. If it's too good to be true, it usually is. And so it was a great life lesson. So now that I'm thinking about it, it may be the best purchase of my life just for the tough lesson learned. So that is the podcast. I know it's very short. Some of the other things I wanted to talk about today were just based off of technology that I've been using that maybe would help you guys out. I own a drone business. I've talked about that several times in this podcast, but I know one of the hardest things for people who are doing content creation is how do I share my media with my customers? And for me, I've used Office 365, Microsoft OneDrive since I started, and I've had great luck with that. However, I've always used the free version of it. So really, I get a project done. I have to download all the content that I have onto the OneDrive, and then I'm able to share the OneDrive link with my customers. And it seemed to work up until a couple weeks ago. The biggest problem of having the free version is you only get 5 gigabytes of free storage. And it seems like 5 gigabytes is enough as long as you're willing to go in every time you're done with the project, and after it's delivered to the customer, delete that content so you have 5 gigabytes of free storage for your next customer. The issue I kept running into, though, is that I would send out content, everything was good, and then a couple months down the line, the customer would come back and say, hey, do you still have that link? I need to re-download those photos. And I kept thinking, I've already deleted that. Now I've got to delete more content, pull it back in, and then resend out the link. But I recently just subscribed to Office 365, and that gives you a lot more storage. I guess I'm not sure what the exact content or the exact numbers are for storage on that, but it's been an absolute dream to work with because now I'm able to go out, take photos, pull them into Lightroom, do all my photo editing in Lightroom, export it directly to a OneDrive folder, and then send that folder directly to my clients. And it's been a great solution for me. I hope that helps you out a little bit. One of the biggest downfalls of that way of doing things is that there's not a watermark on the project. So if you send something out to your customers, you want to make sure you're going to be getting paid for that. I know if you have customers that you're kind of nervous about if you're going to be getting paid or not, some people like to send out a watermarked package with all the content with watermarks on it, and once they pay, it pulls the watermarks off the photos. And for me, that would be a great feature to have. I guess I haven't looked into the software that gives you that capability to do the watermarking, but for me, I've been blessed with wonderful customers who always pay, for the most part, in a very timely manner, so I haven't had to deal with that. But I know that's come up in many forums that I've been reading in the past of, oh man, I've shared my link with the customer, they've got all my content, and they still haven't paid me. And that's a really, really crappy situation to be in, because you've got really no leverage with your customer to get the money. Hopefully, in a perfect world, customers would pay on time and the whole process would be streamlined. But I wanted to give you guys a little insight on what I'm using to share information with my customers. That's been a great addition to my business setup here, and I thought you guys should know a little bit about that. So there, I went on for an extra 5 minutes after I said the podcast was over. I've had a lot of fun here today talking with you. Hopefully my cram session of getting a podcast out is sufficient. Hopefully you guys enjoy this content. I'm already feeling the weight lifting off my shoulders as I'm getting ready to stop recording on this content. 61 episodes strong, a streak that I'm very proud of. Hopefully this week is a little easier on the exporting side. Last week I ran into some serious issues with my internet connection, and I was cutting it, I was down to the crunch time, because I have my streak alive of posting my podcast every Tuesday. Luckily, today I'm recording it on Monday, so if I have any issues, I should have all day tomorrow to get this stuff posted. But that's another thing in the life of a podcaster that I should mention is, once you get everything recorded, it's not always simple to get everything edited and posted online. If all goes well, you're able to edit smoothly, your computer's going to work, your software's going to work, your internet's going to work. That's always very important. Last week, it was like I had 5 minutes to spare, and my internet was not working. I couldn't get my episode uploaded to Anchor, so I thought, you know what, in order to keep the streak alive, I'm going to post it to YouTube. Usually I post the podcast in audio format ahead of time, so you'll be able to hear my podcast before I have the video version on YouTube. And the video version is kind of a new thing that I've been posting. I've really been loving Ecamm Live to do the video production side of things of this podcast. But hopefully the internet's going to work, everything's going to run smoothly, and we'll be able to cut one more episode this week. And then when I get back from vacation, I've got a couple very exciting guests coming on the show, a couple guys that I'm very excited to interview. So if you like this content, please give me a thumbs up, maybe give me a review on the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast on. Head over to my YouTube channel if you want to see the video side of this. Please give me a subscribe there. Every subscriber counts, and I appreciate each and every single one of you. Have a great week, and we will talk to you next week. What?